Pretty much everyone knows the story of David and Goliath. You've got the small shepherd kid, the terrifying giant, and this totally one-in-a-million shot that wins the day. But what if the most important parts of this legendary story are the ones we just gloss over? Today, we're going to dig into the hidden details that completely flip the script on what this story is really about. So we tend to see it as this simple legend, right? The classic underdog story where the little guy gets lucky. But when you really look at the source material, a whole different picture comes into focus. And it turns out, this isn't a story about luck. Not at all. It's a story of earned faith and, honestly, a brilliant strategy. Okay, so let's set the scene real quick. You've got these two armies, basically in a standoff in the Valley of Elah. The Philistines have their champion, this guy Goliath. He's massive, decked out in heavy armor, basically a walking tank built for close-up combat. And on the other side, you've got David, a shepherd, not a soldier, not a warrior, just a kid. And this right here, this one detail is the key that unlocks the whole story. The source material is crystal clear. David's confidence wasn't in himself or his own skill. It was completely rooted in something way deeper. He was confident because he had already seen with his own eyes who God had proven himself to be. And that one idea changes everything.
So that brings us to our first hidden detail. Where did this incredible courage of his actually come from? Because it wasn't just some youthful arrogance or, a blind leap of faith.
So you have to ask, right? Was this just blind faith? Was he just crossing his fingers and hoping for the best against these impossible odds? And the answer is a big, fat no. And this just reframes the entire idea of his faith. See, his trust wasn't some wish for the future. It was built on a rock-solid memory of the past. To put it simply, he trusted not because he hoped, but because he remembered. Before David ever stepped out to face Goliath, he basically gave King Saul his resume. And this lays it out perfectly. He'd fought off a lion to protect his flock, and God delivered him. He'd fought off a bear, and God delivered him. So for David, facing Goliath wasn't some brand new, terrifying thing. It was just the next logical step. This was earned faith, built on a real history of deliverance. He was sure God would deliver him again, because he already had, time and time before. All right, let's move on to the next piece of this, because the story isn't just about faith, it's also about some incredible wisdom. We've got to actually analyze the tools of the trade here.
So the text tells us David picks up 5 smooth stones. Not 1, not 10, exactly 5. That's such a specific number, and it just makes you wonder.
I mean, why 5 stones? If he had all this faith that God was going to give him the win, why did he seem to be preparing for misses, or maybe for a longer fight? Was his faith a little shaky after all? Not even close. See, this wasn't reckless faith. It was faith combined with wisdom. One really common interpretation points out that Goliath actually had 4 brothers. So David wasn't just coming prepared for the giant in front of him. He was ready for the whole family. His trust in God didn't mean he got to skip doing his homework. And this is where we see the brilliant strategy of the fight itself. Look at Goliath. Covered in all this heavy armor, he was built for one thing, a close-up, hand-to-hand brawl. He was a tank. But David never played his game. David used his speed, his agility, and his long-range weapon, the sling, to turn Goliath's greatest strength into his biggest weakness. This wasn't a fight of strength versus weakness. It was strategy versus pride. But even with the right faith and the right strategy, there's still one more layer we need to peel back. We have to understand where this fight was really decided. And spoiler alert, it wasn't in the dirt of the valley. When David yells across the battlefield, he doesn't brag about his aim or his courage. No, he declares this: "I come to you in the name of the Lord." And that one statement changes the entire dynamic. He's reframing the whole conflict. It's not David versus Goliath anymore. It's the God of Israel versus the idols of the Philistines. So the takeaway here is just so clear. The battle was decided long before that stone ever left the sling. The second David defined the fight on spiritual terms, the physical outcome was already a done deal in his mind. And this is really the core message of the whole thing. The fight was never just about a small shepherd versus a huge warrior. It was a spiritual showdown, a battle between David's faith in God versus Goliath's faith in himself, in his own strength, his armor, and his spear. Okay, so why does a story from thousands of years ago matter to us right now? Well, because every single one of us faces giants. They just look a little different these days.
Yeah, our Goliaths might be that overwhelming fear or that crippling self-doubt. Or maybe it's a situation in your health, your finances, your relationships that just feels completely and totally impossible. They stand there in front of us and they mock us, telling us to just give up.
And the lesson from David isn't that we should just pretend to be fearless. I'm sure David felt fear, but he didn't let that fear call the shots. The real lesson is all about where you place your trust when the odds feel stacked against you. It's about remembering your own history of deliverance, using wisdom, and framing the battle the right way.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. What if the giants you're facing in your life right now aren't actually there to take you down? What if their real purpose is to be a powerful, unavoidable reminder of who you trust and who has already proven time and time again that he is faithful?